officially, she is a registered dietitian. If I butcher the functionalities over at Cedardale Health and Fitness, let me know. But so Sam is a registered dietitian. She's received her bachelor's with a minor in exercise and sport from UConn, which means she's a Husky.
That's right.
Oh, Huskies. And her master's in nutrition and health promotion from Simmons College. I don't know the name of their basketball team. Sam is a registered dietitian. She's the group exercise director and certified personal trainer or training at Cedardale Health and Fitness. And for those who are not in our area of Massachusetts, it's Cedardale Health and Fitness is one of the largest gyms in Massachusetts. And Sam is passionate about helping others reach their health and wellness goals, whether it's through exercise, diet, or a combination of the two. So welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining the Three Guys podcast. And tonight it's the two guys and Sam. Brett is unable to join us. He's doing some editing of some previous stuff, but he will listen because he like us is big into exercise and working out. So I know he's going to be looking forward to hearing. So Sam, before because we got all kinds of questions for you tonight,
right?
Because we really believe that the subject matter of health and wellness is absolutely critical. You and I talk about it a lot. Derek and I were just talking about it. So before we kind of get into it, maybe talk a little bit about yourself. We always like to talk about the journey. So if you want to maybe talk about how you got started, I think there's a kind of interesting story of how you got into spinning. So maybe talk about how you got into health and wellness and to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say my passion for health and wellness began pretty early. I was always into dance and a little bit of gymnastics and then eventually cheerleading too. So nutrition and exercise were always like on my mind. And then when I was in high school, I took a sports nutrition class and I had a fabulous instructor, also a dietitian. And she was the one who really pushed me to go into nutrition. I had been thinking about it, and this was my senior year of high school. So I've been thinking about going into college for it, and that class really solidified it. So I knew going into UConn that that's what I wanted to do is nutrition. And then in my freshman year at UConn, that's when the whole fitness side of things really started. So my sister was also at UConn at the same time, and she taught these crazy things that I learn and call spin classes now. And she urged me, like in my first week at school, Sam, you have to take my spin class. So I was like, okay, great. I'll go ahead and take that spin class. And I remember my first class, I'll never forget it. I thought it was the worst thing in the world. I was like, what is this crazy thing that everyone's doing that's so popular? And 15 years ago or however long ago that was, it was not as crazy as it is now. So it was really just beginning. And I was like, wow, this is just crazy. I'm never coming back to this class again. And 15 years later, here I am. It's my favorite class to teach. So that's really where it all started. So while I was getting my degree for nutrition, I also got my certification to teach spin. And then I also got several other fitness certifications and started teaching more and more classes. And I worked at the gym at UConn for all 4 of my years that I was there. So I did have a lot of experience in the gym environment as well as getting my education in nutrition. So that's really where it started. And then from there, to become a registered dietitian, you have to do your internship. So I did that postgraduate and then passed my exam. And I got my master's degree. All along that time, I was still teaching classes and doing personal training. And once I became a registered dietitian, I started seeing some clients one-on-one. And my first position really came, my first full-time position came after I finished my master's degree. And that was with Oracle down in Burlington, Mass. And I was the corporate wellness director there. So I ran their corporate wellness program and their gym there and did nutrition and all kinds of fun wellness stuff there. But ultimately, I ended up at Cedardale because of my passion, because of spinning. I was looking for somewhere to teach spinning a little bit closer to home. And I found Cedardale and they found me to become their registered dietitian. And 7 years later, here I am.
I was talking to Brian, and with the pandemic, I think a lot of people, you see mentally and physically that they've been through some they've been through some tough times, right? And, trying to keep yourself in shape when gyms are closed. So are you seeing now a lot of people that are coming? I mean, is Cedardale open? I mean, well, Cedardale's open, and are you seeing a lot more people back at Cedardale now that you haven't seen in a while? And how are they doing?
Yeah, so seeing a lot more people returning to Cedardale now, which is excellent. Coming back for a variety of different reasons. But I am noticing that with a lot of people, especially people that I work with one-on-one and in my groups, that it's been a really tough year for people, very challenging in many different ways. And sadly, what happens is when we are under a lot of stress and under such challenging times, the first thing that we tend to go to for many people is food or alcohol. So I have seen that a lot in many people. So we have decreased exercise levels, of course, because gyms were not open for so long. And then a lot of people didn't feel comfortable going to gyms when they did reopen. But also people just being stuck at their home. And what else do you do when you're stuck at home and you have nowhere to go? You eat and you snack, and maybe you have a glass of wine or a couple glasses of wine where you don't think it's much, but after 14,
a bottle of wine, bottles of wine.
Yeah. So it gets crazy. So I have seen a lot of people coming my way, particularly for nutrition, that have gained 20, 30, 40 pounds over the last year. So wow. It's pretty shocking.
Let's rewind a year. And we try not to dwell on the pandemic, but I think with someone like yourself and what you do, and Derek mentioned, so many people were impacted by the pandemic, physically and mentally. How did you personally? Well, I kind of, because you and I work together, so I know a little bit, but maybe outside of how we work, maybe more in general, what was your strategy? Just kind of initially, what was your thinking on dealing with people that you knew were going to be having a hard time with this? What was your approach?
So my approach with many of my clients, it's similar to how I had worked with them normally. And I think what happened with the pandemic is it was such a disruption to that normal routine of getting up and, having your breakfast or rushing out the door, going to the office, and then you're going to the gym, like whatever it is that your normal routine is. So normally, when I meet with clients, we work with that normal routine and we try to fit in healthy eating and exercise with that normal routine. But when the pandemic happened, that routine was totally thrown out the door. So the things that people were struggling with was the lack of that routine and not having that structure of having a lunch hour at this time and having snacks at these times and coming home to dinner. So one thing I did a lot with many of my clients was almost just try to force that routine and go by a schedule for eating, because when you're home all day, it's 24/7 access to the refrigerator and the pantry. Whereas if you're going out and about and you're at the office or you're running around doing errands, you don't have access to food 24/7. So we have to almost force ourselves into that routine. That was a big one for people that were just stuck at home constantly, which was most of us at that time.
So you were doing that. Were you doing a lot of virtually? How did that work out? Did it? I mean, did you get a lot of people to come in and join, and then were they actually sticking to the program?
Yeah. So I did do a lot of virtual, and I still do a lot of virtual actually to this day, because one, it's more convenient. So you don't have to drive to the gym, which is nice, but people still did really well with virtual nutrition sessions. Fitness is a whole different thing because that involves a lot of movement. But as far as nutrition goes, the virtual works well, and people have seen a lot of success with it.
You and I would, during our sessions, would talk a little bit about what we were being told, or were there ever times, you don't have to go into specifics, but were there ever times where you would listen to the radio or watching the news and they would give some kind of instruction of do this or don't do that, and you would just kind of did put the hand in the face kind of thing? Or did you feel like most of the guidance that was generally being pushed out was pretty on target based on your experience?
And are you referring to the food and exercise?
Yeah,
that went out?
Yeah. So one of the things that Derek and I were talking about was being outside.
Yeah.
and how important it is. And I feel like, and maybe it was just what I was hearing, but one of the instructions was maybe try not to spend too much time outside.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever come across stuff like that? Did your I almost said your patients, did your customers almost come to you and say, hey, I heard this, and you were like, no, like, was there some of those crazy things that you were getting?
Always. I hear that constantly. I think the big thing that I constantly hear from clients and also see in the media is just the diets or, you know, quick fixes that you see out there that they're pushing. I mean, it's just, some of these things are just so absurd in what they say. And, you know, even just they say that it's research backed, or, you know, the crazy supplements. Those are the things that I see that I'm just like, really like, oh God, like what's going on here? So, I mean, but you constantly see that. That's not unique to the pandemic. But that is something that just, you really have to take a step back and laugh at it, because some of these things are just so crazy when you look deep into them and figure out how they're not true, and they just don't work.
I realize that a lot of the diet supplements, or most of them, they're not approved by the FDA.
No, the FDA does not have to approve them. They really can do whatever they want and market them however they want, in order to sell their product for pretty much any supplement. So you have to be really wary of that.
Well, it's scary because you don't know what's in there. I mean,
no, you don't. Yeah, and not everything is on the label. So
yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, get quick diets. You know, you're trying to like, yeah, you take these pills in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, you'll be down 30 pounds.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Always be wary of that kind of stuff, because you know that there's something wrong, or it'll probably work, but then you'll probably put it back on because, you know, you're not going to take that pill for the rest of your life.
Like the mental and the physical, I don't know how much you know about it, like where, you know, one meets the other, and where, you know, if you don't have both, I don't know, do you get to that point where you can lose the weight or get yourself healthy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. It is something I try to evaluate in new people I work with, and then continue to evaluate as we move along, is really where people are mentally, because it drives everything. So there are questions that I often ask in many of my first sessions with clients that relate to how they sleep, how their stress levels are, you know, and just kind of a lot of different lifestyle questions, because that will give me a better picture of where those people are mentally and potential barriers. Because I do often see stress as probably the number one barrier for people to losing weight. Now, stress can be there to start, but to maintain things long term, that's the harder part, you know, because if you're motivated enough and you're in a good mental space, you're like, no, I need to lose weight, and you're really determined, then you're going to get through that stress to start. But eventually it's going to start to trickle back in. And those are signs that I look for, to say, okay, maybe we need to start backing off of some of the things that we're doing, start to manage the stress and other things going on in their life, because you can only do so much at once. And if people try to lose weight and to exercise while they're under immense amount of stress from whatever's going on in their life, then they're just setting themselves up for failure. And it creates this vicious cycle where, you know, they fail with their exercise and their food. They feel more bad about themselves. They eat more because of it. They stop exercising. Other stress in their life never really gets better. So it just starts all coming together. So I do constantly look at that, because it's a huge driver. And the other part of the mental space too is, you know, just people's perception of food and how they see diets and how they see eating and their relationship with it, because that can be a big barrier as well. So for example, I see a lot of people that their whole life they've been yo-yo dieters. So they've been up and down. They've tried every single diet that comes by. And after the years, that really creates a negative relationship with food. And it just becomes harder and harder to manage that and to lose the weight and keep it off when you do have that negative relationship with food. So that's another thing that I'll work with a lot with many of my clients and monitor as we continue to work through. So.
Sam, we're going to turn this back to you. And how do you motivate? You talk about your family and your dad and your husband and your daughter motivate you. And that, similar to me, my family certainly does motivate me. But what gets you out of bed at 4:30 in the morning to go do this workout for an hour and a half at some pretty extreme, intense levels? How do you do it? What's that thing for you that says, I don't care how early it is, how cold it is, how rainy it is, how warm it is, I'm going? How do you do it?
So it goes a lot into how I perceive exercise. So again, we're kind of going back to the whole mental space thing. With the last question is, I don't perceive exercise as a burden. I perceive it as, something that is really amazing. It makes me feel good. I feel good doing it. I feel good after. I feel strong. And I know it's good for me. So it's not like, another thing I have to do. When you think of exercise as, just another thing you have to add to your list, again, it's that negative thinking. It's not something that you're going to maintain long term. You have to think of it in a more positive way and realize the benefits of the exercise and what it's doing for you to get you out of bed and to get you through really any barrier. So exercise for me is just a part of my life. It's not a question of when I'm going to exercise. It's just built in. Like I don't even think about it, because it's been such a consistent habit for so many years, and it takes time to get to that point. But if you do get to that point, then eventually people think just like me, they just love doing it. It feels great. It's not just another task, but it is hard to get to that point. You have to change your way of thinking.
How intentional are you with your planning? I mean, when you and I speak, I feel like you're big about purpose and intention. I mention it on every episode, so I might as well mention it on this one, because I feel like that's what a lot of this is about. But when it comes to you personally, do you plan out your week? And because you teach classes, obviously, so those are scheduled. But separate from that, are you specific to, I'm going to do this on this day, this on that day, or?
Yep, I am. And right, it's almost not like a plan at this point, because I keep it the same week to week. And that's why I love the morning workouts, because morning workouts, there's very few things that get in the way of it, where you could say, I've got to go pick up the kids, or I've got to do this, or I'm too tired, or whatever it is. First thing in the morning, nothing really ever comes up. So, for me, I always have the same days every week that I work out. And obviously my classes are the same because those are scheduled, but my other workouts are scheduled as well. So it's not even a question. It's just, this is the day that I work out, plain and simple, instead of, I'm going to try to get 3 workouts in this week whenever I have time. It's nope, that this is my workout time, and I schedule everything else.
One of the things you see is that people they start an exercise like diet, and they don't lose the weight right away, or they gain weight. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating. And sometimes people give up. Mm-hmm. Do you come across a lot of people? And what do you tell people like that?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, you got to evaluate what's going on, because a lot of times what I see with my clients, and I see this more often probably than other people because of the way that I counsel people, is that if you're starting an exercise routine and at the same time changing your eating habits, you have to assume that, if you're doing the right type of exercise, your strength training, you're probably putting muscle on. And muscle does weigh more than fat. So, you could be gaining muscle and losing body fat, but you don't see a change on the scale. So that's something you have to evaluate as well. And then as far as the food goes, I have to really evaluate everything that's going on. Because what I often see with a lot of people is that, I'm following my diet perfectly and I'm doing really well. But in reality, they're doing well Monday through Friday. And then Friday afternoon comes around, and the whole weekend, it's like, they black out, can't remember what they ate all weekend long. And that can be the problem right there, is that, they totally let loose on the weekends, and they end up on that hamster wheel. So that's a big part of it too. So it's evaluating a lot of different things. And also I tell a lot of my people to not weigh themselves either, because that can be detrimental to to any weight loss effort, especially when you're active, because it can create that negative relationship with food and the scale. So not weighing yourself and just paying attention to how your body feels can also be another thing I'd recommend.
Let's get into the program kind of as an overview, and then we can touch on some really specific parts of it that you think are the most important that you want to talk about, that people like myself or Derek would want to know, that potentially would be interested in joining the group.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So let's talk about the relationship with food, because my relationship with food, Sam, is it's like this. So what's the first thing from what I remember about the class, one of the first things was sugar and how important it is. Well, it was two things. Number one was how bad it is having a high dose of sugar on a daily basis and removing sugar. And then the second thing, I've already drank in my empty glass, is water. So let's maybe start on just the real basics of what you want to tell somebody once they start meeting with you.
Yeah, so sugar is huge, and that's such a big topic. We spend probably in the program, the Healthy Living program, we spend a good 3 weeks just talking about carbohydrates, which does encompass the added sugars. So that's probably one huge thing that I do like to talk about with not only my Healthy Living people, but many of my clients, is just the power of sugar and how prevalent it is in our food supply, whether it's fake sugar, real sugar, stevia, a sugar alcohol, whatever it is. I mean, it is in almost everything, which creates a problem, because of course, a lot of people struggle with, having sweets and cravings for sweets. They want the ice cream at the end of the day, dessert, or they want the cookies, and, they binge eat on those. But there's also a lot of other things throughout the day that are leading up to that, starting with your morning coffee. Are you drinking your morning coffee, and are you adding either sugar, a syrup, or some type of sugar sweetener? Like, does your coffee taste really sweet in the morning? If it tastes really sweet, then you're starting off the day with something sweet, and that just sets you up to crave more sugary things throughout the day. So of course you're going to go more towards the sugary snacks and treats and stuff like that. But then also there's a lot of other things that start to sneak in, like condiments, so are you adding a lot of condiments and dressings that are sweet tasting, so you can get more of that sweet taste to things that are not even sweet? Like putting ketchup on eggs. Ketchup is sweet, so are you putting that to your eggs? If that's you, then you're someone who really loves that sugary taste. And it's going to make it a lot harder for you to change your eating habits if you constantly are feeding yourself that sweet taste, whether it's fake or real sugar of some sort. So that's a huge one for many of my clients, and something I try to teach everybody in Healthy Living. We spend a lot of time on it. So that's number one. And then, water is another big one. It's just so many people just don't drink enough water throughout the day, and that sets them up for a whole host of other issues that could come up from, having headaches, to being tired, to then having cravings for wanting, some of those sugary, carby, processed things to give you the energy, when in reality, you're just thirsty. Water is, the power of water is phenomenal, and you don't realize what it can do for you until you start drinking more. I get so many people that say, oh, well, I feel fine with drinking only 1 glass of water a day. Well, how do you know you can't feel better than what you're feeling right now until you try it and you drink more water? So that can just really help set up a whole nother set of positive habits, to make it easier to cut back on your eating, make it easier to manage your cravings and your energy levels if you just simply drink more water. So those are probably 2 big things I try to work on with my clients and promote in Healthy Living. And then the other big thing that we always talk about in Healthy Living that's important is also just the importance of balancing your meals throughout the day. It kind of goes with the whole sugar thing. But just trying to have meals that have a lean protein, that have a healthy fat, and that have a healthy carbohydrate too, and not be afraid of that carbohydrate. For so long, we were in that fat-free craze and trying to cut back on fat in our foods. And what ended up happening is we have a tendency now to have these just carbohydrate processed snacks that have very little fiber, very little protein, very little fat, because we've been so afraid of the calories and the fat that could come along with real foods. But at the end of the day, it's just making us more hungry. We overeat. We're not getting the nutrition we need. So it doesn't work. So balancing meals and not being afraid of eating healthy fats and eating good carbohydrates and eating, good lean proteins instead of just that 100-calorie snack pack of Oreos or whatever it is that's marketed really well. That's not going to do anything for you.
Sam, they might be, I think I looked this week, and not that I had any, but there are 170 calories for every 3.
I think you said you have to eat a portion meals and stuff like that. Some people, I think they think if I skip meals, like I only eat once or twice a day. Can you explain how good or bad that is?
Yes. That's a new trend right now. It goes with the whole intermittent fasting, which has mixed reviews, very little research on it, but more coming along the way. So with skipping meals or intermittent fasting, or however you want to term it, it's not the best way. It works for some people, and I'm not going to knock it for those people that it does work well for, but for the majority of people that I see, it doesn't work, because it tends to end up with them eating more, and either binging at that meal or in their time frame that they're supposed to eat, and still overdoing it, because you can do a lot of damage with just one meal and really overeat. And at the other end of the spectrum too, you could also not be eating enough nutrients. So then it sets up cravings, and eventually you fall off track and you go back to your old habits. So in most cases, it doesn't work well, especially if you don't have a good relationship with food, or if you've got diabetes or other medical issues. It can be a problem in managing those things. For some people, it works great for them and good for them, but the majority, it doesn't. It's not something I recommend.
Yeah, because you see a lot of people, they some people say have 6, some people like, I'll eat 6 or 7 times a day. Some people say, well, I only eat like twice a day. Yeah. And then some people are, having all the shakes, 2 shakes, and then they're eating at dinner. And you have all these trends out there, and people, I think, people look at them like, okay, how do I start this? Or where do I go to at least make it healthy? And then at least at the end of the day, if I do lose that weight, how do I go back to being normal? Because you can't do that. Well, most people can't. They're not going to do it for 3 or 4 months, right? They're going to be like, okay, I want to go back to living a normal life. And how do you implement a normal lifestyle after you just went through that rigorous or different style of dieting?
Yeah, most people don't. And that's why they end up putting the weight back on, is because, they were able to lose it quickly and follow that plan for 3 to 4 months. But most people, it's just unrealistic for them. So they end up putting the weight back on because they don't know how to integrate those habits into their real life and their lifestyles. And that's what I try to work on with people in the Healthy Living program, is that it's not a quick fix. It's not, the next 90 days, you're going to lose 40 pounds and then I'll say, bye, good luck with everything. It's how do you integrate eating and exercise into your lifestyle in a way that's going to work for you, but that you can maintain long-term, not a quick fix. So I'm not expecting people to lose 40, 50 pounds in 90 days. Be great if you could lose 20 pounds. That's very doable. And I do see that. But it's really more slow, controlled, but realistic weight loss. That's what we're trying. The Healthy Living program, it does have, it's unique because it's, of course, we talk a lot about nutrition over the 12 weeks of the program. But in addition to that, we also do a lot with exercise. So each week we do work out for about 45 minutes or so together as a group, and we change up the workout every single week so that the people who are in the program really get to get exposure to different types and styles of workouts, different exercises, so that they can start to incorporate some of those exercises into their own routine outside of our group class that we have together. So that's really great. We get to work on some of the basics with many of these people, on, just doing basic squats and, push-ups and core work and stretches and stuff. So it's nothing that's really crazy or out of this world, but, just how do we master those so that our bodies feel better, move better, less injury in real life. So that's another great aspect of the program, is not only you getting the nutrition information, but also how do you exercise properly in a way that's good for you and your body, not just let's hop on the treadmill and run for 20 minutes and hope for the best, but how do you really make a program that's going to work for you, that's going to give you results.
And talk about not just the time, but the effort piece.
Yeah. So we incorporate a heart rate monitor system that's called the MyZone belt. And the MyZone belt, it's essentially monitors your heart rate, but the way that MyZone portrays it is they say it's your effort level, which is great because, you know, it's one thing to make sure you move and you get to the gym and, you know, you exercise, but it's another thing to really push yourself to a level where you're going to see results. And that's why the MyZone belt is great, is because it shows me that, and anyone else who looks at the MyZone belt, or you as a user, it shows you your effort. So you know how hard you pushed yourself. So it motivates you to want to go a little bit harder, a little bit longer, a little faster, whatever it is. And it's also just a great accountability system because I get to see all of that as your coach on a regular basis and make sure that you're doing the exercise that we set a goal for. So that's really great. And it does different colors and different zones. So it shows you where you are throughout your whole workout. And something we talk about in the program, where should you be for different types of workouts? Because obviously cardio, you're going to put a lot more effort in than strength training, but strength training is a different type of effort. So we walk through all of that, and the belt is great for monitoring all of those things. And you get to see everything right there on your app. You also get to see what other people at the club and in the group are doing to help keep you motivated. So if you like that competition, it's a great little tool to keep pushing you forward. So I love the MyZone belt. I'm a big fan of it. It's really.
You know, Sam, what would you tell someone who's, you know, trying to, you know, after the pandemic, they're trying to, you know, maybe they've gained weight. What would you tell them to encourage them to come maybe to your class or something else? Because maybe they feel, listen, you know, I'm so far out of shape. What am I going to do? How do I get myself back into it? I don't have the time. You know, how do I eat healthy? How do you give them, what advice would you give them to try to give them that little extra to come join your class or other classes across the country?
Yeah. So I guess the one of the first things I ask, and I always say this in week 1 of healthy living to kind of get that oomph and get them going is ask them why. Why have they come to me in the first place or come to this program with interest? You know, what's motivating them? So why do you want to change? And when you start to get that list together in your head mentally or write it down or whatever it is, that can help to start motivate you. So you start to see the reasons why you do want to change, because change is not easy. It's hard to start a new exercise routine. It's hard to start a new eating routine. I get that. But if you figure out your why, it helps get you motivated enough so that you can overcome a lot of those barriers and challenges that will come up, or the excuses that you might have for exercising and eating. So that's really the first thing that I'm going to ask is why? Why are you doing this? And try to hammer that out. And hopefully that helps them to push them to the next step. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That goes back to that mental space is if you're ready, you're going to know your whys and you're going to be motivated. And it's not a question of whether you're starting or not. It's just a question of when, really, at that point. But if you're not, then you might struggle and fumble on those whys and not quite figure out what those motivators are, because you're not ready yet mentally, and that's okay. You know, you just try at a different time if that's the case, instead of forcing the exercise and the eating on you when you're not ready, because then you're just going to fail, and that doesn't feel good either. It's not going to help. For so many people, it's just stepping foot into the health club or into any gym, and just that stigma of, oh, I have to be fit to come here. I mean, we hear that all the time, whether it's with personal training or with group exercise or just starting a routine. And, you know, I just try to say, hey, everybody starts somewhere. So these people that you see, you know, that are fit, that are around you, they were in your shoes one day. You know, so we all have to get going somewhere. You're here for you and for your health. And you'll get to that point where you're comfortable, but you're not going to get comfortable if you don't start. So you just have to take that first step into the door, or take that first step into that class, or whatever it is that you're nervous about. And then you'll find that after a couple times, you'll start to feel more comfortable. And if you really don't feel comfortable yet, then I'm going to tell a client or somebody I'm talking to, well, fine, just start walking. Just start walking outside at your own pace where you feel comfortable. Do that for a couple weeks, and that helps build a lot of confidence in people. If they can stick with it, they feel a little bit stronger, and then it might, before they know it, they're ready to step foot in the gym. So that would be another. So journaling is a really important part of any routine as you get started, especially when you're working with a coach or a registered dietitian, because it helps me see truly what you're eating. But it also is a really great learning process for you as well. So I use an app called Healthy. It's what manages all of my nutrition business. And what I love about Healthy is, there's so many different apps out there, from MyFitnessPal to Lose It to the Fitbit one. There's so many different calorie trackers and apps you can use to journal or track your food, however you want to term it. What I like about Healthy is that it is just strictly journaling, and it takes away the whole calorie counting and, looking at your macros and all that kind of stuff, which I find many people can obsess about. And you can develop that negative relationship with food when you're just solely looking at calories. Obviously, calories matter to a degree, that I'm not debating that, but I find that people just get too caught up in the calories. And that's why I like the Healthy app, because you don't focus just on calories. You're focusing, on just journaling. Like, this is what I had today. I had my 2 eggs and toast. You just type it in. You can take a picture of it. You can take a picture of the journal like you did, Brian. So it's very flexible, but it still has the basic concepts of me being able to see what you're eating, so I can help coach you through that and give you feedback on it. And also helps you be more mindful, because you have to think of everything that you're eating and put it down on paper or in the app. And that's really helpful for so many people, because there's a lot of eating that can be very mindless, whether it's snacking or what you're doing on the weekends, when you totally forget about healthy eating, or, whatever it is. So it really forces you to think about all that kind of stuff and realize, oh my gosh, I'm eating late at night, or I'm having a lot more during the workday that I noticed. And it helps you to notice other trends too, like how you feel around food and stuff. So it can really help develop a better relationship with food, which is why I love it. And it works.
How much does the program cost?
Well, it depends, because a lot of the program for many people is covered by insurance.
Oh, really?
So as long as you have some kind of medical necessity going on, whether it's obesity or diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, something like that, then many times a good chunk of the program is covered by insurance. So there's very few costs that you would be responsible for. You would be responsible for the MyZone belts that we talked about earlier. I also have what we call a earn back fee, which is a fee that you pay up front. And then as long as you finish the program, essentially you get that back. So it's a little motivation to keep you committed for the program. And that's pretty much it. So it can be very affordable, but it does depend on your insurance. So I can't really say exactly how much it costs until I talk with them.
So go ahead and give our listeners where they can find out more about you, and then find out more about healthy living.
Absolutely. So the best way to figure out more about me and the Healthy Living program is to go to the Cedardale website, which is cedardale.net. So very simple. And then you would go to the Nutrition and Wellness tab of that of the homepage, and you'll find all the information that you need about nutrition and also the Healthy Living program. There's a video that you can watch that has more information on the program. And then my contact information is all over the website. But best way to get a hold of me is certainly by email. And my email address is smccarthy@cedardale-health.net. And you can also call the club, and they'll connect you right to my office, and we can chat over the phone about any questions you may have regarding nutrition and the Healthy Living program.
So that's one of the benefits of being in the group, is Sam has some shopping tips that she does as well.
Yeah. So if you follow Cedardale on either Instagram or Facebook, I do push out a lot of nutrition tips. I do nutrition tips on a weekly basis with both of the Instagram and Facebook. And then Facebook, I will periodically do Facebook Live photos, or not photos, videos. And we'll do for example, Brian, I think is referring to the one where we took a look at my grocery cart. So what did I buy at the grocery store that week, and talking a little bit more about that. A lot of them we've done are around cooking. So how to cook some heart healthy recipes or how to meal prep for the week. So follow Cedardale on either Facebook and Instagram or both. And you'll get a lot more information about nutrition.
It's awesome that you give what to pick up for food and which in your shop. I think that helps the people a lot, because I think that's one of the hardest things, right? How do you pick your food? What do you pick?
Yeah.
And building on that question, where do you do most of your grocery shopping?
Market Basket.
So you can go to Market Basket and get healthy food.
Yep, that's pretty much the only place I buy my food. I love them there. They have great options. It doesn't have to be at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. While those have great options, they're just not affordable for many people. And you can find great organic, healthy options at Market Basket, more than enough. So that's where I do 100% of my shopping.
That's great.
What's your ultimate plan within we'll call it the journey of the health and wellness space? Where do you want to be in 10 or 15 years?
In 10 or 15 years, I still want to be in a very similar position to where I am now. I absolutely love my job. I help people on a daily basis, and I couldn't ask for anything more than that. To see them change and to see progress and just help them with the struggles that they have is just extremely rewarding. So if anything, I just over the next 10 or 15 years, just expanding to be able to work with more and more people and help more people, because it's hard, and it's an uphill battle fighting against the media and everything that is pushed out there about food and exercise, and so much of it is inaccurate and just unrealistic. And especially as some of our youth gets older, with the youth that have grown up with social media and Instagram and a lot of the issues that can come about with food and exercise because of those platforms. I hope that over the next few years I can work with a lot of those kids as they start to get older and just help them develop a better relationship with themselves and with food and health and exercise, because that will be a challenge moving forward. So I just want to keep working with people and have that privilege, because it's amazing every day.
Well, Sam, I think you should think about writing a book, because you have such great.
Maybe in 10 to 15 years, I'll be able to.
I just feel like you always have such great information, tailored information, because you've dealt with so many different people that I feel like you kind of know how to handle, all the questions that come at you. And but we really appreciate.
You know what? I can't, because Brian, he does rave about you, and I'm being sincere. Sometimes I'll be eating something, and you're like, "Oh, Sam doesn't." And I'm like, Brian, I don't need to hear this now. I'm trying to eat my.
Give us real quick the websites and any of the Instagram, any of that stuff one last time.
Absolutely. So website is cedardale.net. Very simple. And then on Instagram, you can find us at Cedardale Health Fitness. And on Facebook, it's Cedardale Health and Fitness. So very similar. Just search for Cedardale and you'll be able to find us. And you can also shoot me an email at smccarthy@cedardale-health.net.
And you have YouTube videos that you have from a while ago, right? So people can...
Yeah, and YouTube videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Sam. I'll be seeing you soon in a couple of weeks, and we appreciate. Thank you to Cedardale again for allowing us to have some time with you, and hopefully we were able to take some information from you, but also you can learn how fun it is to hang out with us.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's like it's the last time I do this again.
I appreciate the invite, and I hope you guys all got some great information tonight.